Welcome everybody to the Skill Development Playbook Podcast mini episodes. I am your host, Coach TJ, and today for this mini episode, we will be discussing finishing tips for point guards. I recently just did a podcast that you can check out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and it discussed 6 essential skills for point guards. And in one of those, we talked about shooting, and I discussed finishing a little bit, and we're going to discuss that today. But before we get into that, again, my podcast is available on Apple Podcasts. Be sure to subscribe and give me a 5-star rating. I really appreciate that. And it's also available on Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Also, I have a book that will be released hopefully by the end of the year. It's actually being edited right now by my editor. And got some feedback and making some tweaks. So be on the lookout for that. And if you're following me on social media, then you will be getting updates on when that book will be available. So this is a mini episode. I'm not going to keep you long, so let's get right into it. So, finishing tips for point guards. First thing I want to say is you want to start simple. You don't have to do, I see a lot of times where coaches try to teach players all these different types of finishing moves around the rim, these euros and, double pumps and a lot of different things. But I think you really got to start simple. You got to start basic. You got to make sure they can use their right and left hand. Right and left hand layups. They have to learn how to use both hands before moving on to more difficult moves. And there are 6 basic finishes. I'm not going to say that they're just basic, but there are 6 fundamental finishes I think that every player has got to learn. And that's a right hand layup off of the right foot, right hand layup off the left foot, and a right hand finish off both feet. And then you do the same thing for the left hand off the right foot, left hand off the left foot, left hand off both feet. Now, excuse me, there are 3 angles to the rim that I want players to be able to finish. That's the front of the rim and both sides of the rim. So if you take those 6 finishes and you get to where you can make those from the front of the rim and both sides, you now have 18 different finishes that you can have. Now, the so-called goofy layup, where you jump, right hand, right foot, left hand, left foot. You're going to have some players, that's how they shoot their layups. So don't discourage them and tell them that it's wrong. Just let them know that, hey, some players are taught to shoot their layups that way, but I want you to also be able to shoot the layup the old traditional way. You can't really say that layup is wrong now because so many players do that. So you will say, well, I want to teach you the traditional way to shoot a right hand and left hand layup. Okay? Now, let's go into some other finishes. Oh, before I get into that, I do want to say this. When you're working on finishing, if a player is finishing off of 2 feet, if they're finishing off 2 feet, then you want your players to understand that's for power. They want to go up for power. There's probably going to be some contact, and they want to go up off 2 feet. If they are wanting to go up quickly, if they're trying to beat somebody to the rim, beat somebody to the basket, then they probably need to go off of 1 foot. So it's important for them to know the difference for those two. So what are some other finishes? You have your floaters off of 1 or 2 feet. You're going to be able to use either hand. And here are some teaching points for when you're doing the floater. You want to make sure that the player high jumps. We don't want them long jumping because they could pick up a charge. You want the ball to be above the square that gets it over the big man when they rotate over to try to block the shot. And then 3, the ball should hit the backboard on the way down. That gives it a little more touch than that ball is coming down and it's hitting the backboard. And you want to work on that shot from all different types of angles. Another finish that you want to add is a reverse layup. You want to be able to shoot your reverse layup with either hand, off of your right foot, off your left foot, and again, off of both feet. If you're able to do that, and the player has to understand when to do the reverse and when it's gives them the advantage to finish at the rim when you're learning how to use that rim as a shield against that defender. You have an up and under. Up and under is really good. The teaching point on that is I want my players to think jump shot. So if I have a player that's penetrating from the wing and they're going to the middle of the floor, we're going to plant that inside foot. So if they're dribbling with their left hand, they're going to plant their right foot. They're going to almost square up with their left foot, and they're going to give a little pump fake. The defender raises up, they jump, and then we're going to step through, do a little crossover step through, and then we're going to finish for a short jump shot, or we're going to finish at the rim for the layup. So when they're doing the up and down, we want them to sail the shot, and then step through. Another finish that they can have is a step away. It's also called a rondo. Hakeem Olajuwon used to do this back in the day. This time you're going to be pivoting off of the ball side foot. So if I'm driving with my right hand, then my right foot would be my pivot. I bring my inside foot through. I give a little ball fake, and then I'm going to pivot back around and either get into a pass or a shot. Now I can combine the step away with an up and under. There's a lot of different things that you can do. So you want your players to work on this, get their footwork down, and understand when to use it and how to use it. And when it comes to footwork is footwork. So if a player learns how to do a particular move off a pass, then you probably can add a shot off of that too, and vice versa. Then you have things like a Euro step. And when you're teaching a Euro step, you want to teach how you want them to gather the basketball, how you want them to pick it up. Are they faking? Chris Paul likes to give a little fake. You see a lot of players now, they're getting into their step and they'll get the ball high above the defender's outreached hand. And then you can get into different finishes, whether it's a Euro step into a regular layup, a Euro step into an inside hand reverse, a Euro step into a floater, whatever it is that you think that's going to benefit them to get that shot off. And then, of course, you have a spin move. So with the spin move, you got to be able to have some good footwork. That player has to understand when to make that move, when not to make that move, depending on how the defense is playing. So those are just some different finishes that you'll want your players to learn, especially if it's a point guard. You want your point guard to be crafty. But here's what's important. You want your players to understand, especially your point guard, you don't have to have all of these finishes. You don't have to have all of these finishes. Basically what you want to do is start with one, work on that one move, get it down, add another. Or you may even have one and then add a counter to that finish. But let the players really get comfortable with those finishes. Don't show them a finish or teach them a finish, and then you look up and a week later you're teaching them a whole nother finish. Allow them to get comfortable doing it and be able to really master it before they move on. But all together, if you can have a point guard, if you have a guard that can finish with 3 or 4 different ways, then they're gonna be pretty crafty around the rim. So that's where you want to get to. I would say 3 or 4 really good finishes that they can use right around the rim. So then the last thing is just being able to finish at different speeds. You're not gonna be able, you're not gonna go 100 miles an hour all the time. Sometimes you're gonna be attacking, and when you get ready to gather yourself to go up, you may have to slow down and go slower. So those are the things that I have. That's it. Real quick before I let you go, make sure that you follow me on social media, on Twitter and Instagram. My handles are at NBNBball. On Facebook, I have a fan page. It's NBN Basketball. On LinkedIn, find me. I'm Coach TJ Jones. Email CoachTJ@nbnbball.com. Be sure to check out my website, nbnbball.com. And then on Snapchat, it's Coach TJ Jones. Until next week, thank y'all. God bless.